Come on, mate. Now, I don't have to tell you how much I love paving. And the reason why is because you can use it in so many different situations. I mean, they land Boeing 747s on them. So you can easily put the caravan, the trailer, the boat, or the spare car on them as well. And here is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. At the moment, you've got a bit of grass, a bit of dirt, and a bit of gravel. And when it rains, that dirt turns into mud. Now, if you look at the situation, the water comes straight down this road. There's no curb and gutter. So as it's coming down here, it just goes with gravity. And it goes in here and it fills up their carport. So what we're going to put in is a paver that's called Turfgrid. Now, the best thing about that, it's permeable. So water, when it hits it, can go through it into the ground. And as you can see from the pictures with the car pulling in here, you'd never park there with those puddles, hop out in thongs and walk inside. How can we completely transform this area from this to this? So let's go through what you need to do the perfect job. The first thing I reckon you have to do is ring dial before you dig. Now, it's a free service right across the country. And what it does is tell you where all the amenities are. On the paperwork I got, it said the stormwater ran straight across the front of the property. So I've exposed it so that I'm not going to damage it. Now, it's pretty obvious to know that this is your Telstra, but where does it run? Well, it comes in and straight into the property, so I'm not going to hit it either. If you break something, you pay for it. And if it's the data for the suburb, it can cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. The next thing I do is work out what I need. If this is 6 metres wide and 5 metres long, that's 30 square metres. But I order an extra 10%, so I'm going to get 33 square metres. Now, it might sound like a waste, but trust me, if you did the job and you finish a metre short, it drives you nuts. You've got to go and order more, wait for them to get delivered, and you've lost your mojo laying that last metres of pavers. Then you need to look at what you're working with. Now, what we've got here is a very sandy base. It's got no structure whatsoever, so we need a nice, strong footing. The subsurface of your paving is exactly like the footings of your house. If they're weak, your house falls down. If the subsurface under your paving's weak, your pavers move. So we're going to take out about 250 mil and put 170 mil of road base in. That'll be nice and strong. If you've got clay, you have the same problem because when clay gets wet, it moves everywhere. So a nice deep sub base that's well compacted will give you a finished job that will last forever. Then you need to mark it out and get it ready for excavation. The humble tomato stake. It's very versatile. What I'm using it for here is to mark out my heights. If I grab a texter and I come up any measurement I like, there's fine. Now, if I measure down from that to the ground and then I add what we need to excavate, we can get our finished heights at the bottom. You don't want to take out too much because it costs you a lot of money to get rid of and just a lot more in materials. And to get the height from here across to the other side, you can use a water line. Now, they've been using them for thousands of years. You set your water line to here and it'll transfer a level any distance you like, provided there's no bubbles inside it. And you put a little bit of cordial in it just so it's easy to read. And when you finish the job, you can drink it if you want. Now, what we're going to do here is put a layback, which is a little bit like a speed hump. It's just going to come off the existing driveway and it's going to match up with the existing paving, but it's going to have a hump in the middle. And the reason we're doing that is because when the water comes down the road, I want it to go that way. The hump will stop it from going over it and continue down the street. And then I'm going to get the pros in to excavate it. You could do it by hand, but you'd be here for a month of Sundays and then you'd be at physio for the next 12 months. Righto, mate. Sweet. And this is our road base. It's actually called rebase and it's worth looking for at your landscape supply yard. The positives, it's recycled so it's not going to landfill and it's a little bit cheaper than buying the new stuff. I use it on every job. Now what we want to do is get 100 mil over this whole job and hit it with the whacker. We're going to do it in layers because if I do a little bit and hit it with the whacker, it'll all compact. If I do the whole lot and hit it with the whacker, only the top will compact and this down here will be light and fluffy, meaning the foundations of your path or your driveway can move, which means your pavers can move as well. So spread this out, old school, with a rake if you've got a couple of days, or have a bit of fun and go and hire yourself a dingo. They're easy to use and you'll knock something like this over in no time at all. Now the good news is there's no skill in laying out this road base and raking it off. You don't have to get it dead flat just yet, but you don't want it to be higher than you need it to be. This being the first course, we don't have to worry about that yet, but I've already got my hump happening, so I'm going to go over it with a whacker, and it's important that you dampen it down as you go. Dampening it down starts setting it off. Now it's not going to set as hard as concrete, but I wouldn't like to have to dig in it when it's set. Now, far and away, the most technical part of any paving job is screening the sand and getting it nice and flat. But I'm going to break it down for you and make it as easy as possible. What I've got is what I call tram tracks. I've got 2 of them here, and if I screed over the top and I don't dig into them and I keep them nice and neat, I know that all the sand I take off is on the same plane as them, and that'll get it nice and flat for me. Just work a little bit at a time, removing the sand. And it's important you stick your tongue out because it shows you're concentrating. Now the reason I love Turfgrid is because of these holes. That's what makes it permeable. Water can get through there. You could turf it, or you can put a pebble or a gravel in there. We're going for a pebble today. But they're dead easy to lay. I've just set up a string line here in line with the roller door. Now we're going to make good these old pavers once this is down. When the roller door's down, all you're going to see is new paving hiding the old stuff. But you throw it down pretty quick once you get going. We've just set up a string line for the first course, and then you don't even have to worry about stretcher bond, which means you can just go butt to the next paver. So if your width's right, you've got next to no cuts whatsoever. And a lot of councils tick this off as soft landscaping because that water that we're talking about can go straight into the ground. It's not a hard surface, it's a soft surface. How good does it look with a pebble in? Now you can use any colour, shape and size you like, provided that it's not too big. We've gone for one that's called Denman. It's kind of like the stuff that you use in pebblecrete. There's lots of browns and natural colours in there, and I think it looks fantastic. But I've seen it look just as good with grass in it as well. To make sure it stays where you've laid it, you've got to haunch the edges in. All that means is you're putting a footing on the side of your pavers so they can't go north and south. And it's as simple as knocking up a mix of the paving sand and cement. Now it's 3 shovels of paving sand, 1 shovel of cement, and I've wet down the existing pavers we've put on the ground so they don't draw all the moisture out of this and it dries too quick. How good does the Turfgrid look? But before you ring your friends and get them all over here to pop the champers and celebrate and show them how good you are, there's one more step that's well worth taking. Grab the whacker and what you do is put a piece of carpet underneath it. Now fellas, it's important that the carpet doesn't come from the house. Don't use it from the hallway. Your missus will never forgive you. Trust me, I'm speaking from experience. But what it'll do for you is go over the pavers and bed them into the sand. It's just another way to guarantee that everything's nice and compact. And the carpet, well, it takes away a bit of the impact, so you're not going to chip or crack any of your pavers. But when you're finished, get them over, stand back, and accept the compliments. How good does this look? For more information on all my DIY projects, simply go to adbrymasonry.com.au. You can get all the fact sheets and download them from there. plus all the hints and tips you'll need to do the job. While you're there, check out our inspirations gallery. There's a ton of photos sure to inspire you to get out in the garden and do a job this weekend. Good luck!